got a microphone. Can everyone hear me? Does that work? In the back? Okay. That's not going to work. Sorry, I have to change one thing here. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to our workshop. We're excited to have you. This is the first CALERIE workshop. I want to immediately, at the beginning, thank Kathy Galan, who has down at the end of the hall, the table, for setting this up for us and doing all the background work to make this possible. And Kathy's been part of the CALERIE project from the beginning, which is basically 15 years, we were remembering last night. So that's a long time to be devoted to a project. So thank you very much, Kathy. I also want to thank my colleagues in arms, Kim Huffman and Carl Pieper, who are in the back of the room. Carl and Kim, who work tirelessly to help make this a success as well. I want to thank the sponsors, NIA. We have representatives here. Giovanna Japala over here. Evan Hadley. And is Shonda Dutta here? No, Shonda's not here. She's coming later. Are there other representatives of the program office here today? No? Okay, good. Excellent. So the sponsor, NIA, has been supportive of this project from the very beginning, obviously, and tirelessly and actively engaged in the science from the beginning. So thank you very much for making this a possibility as well. So the purpose of this workshop today, and the reason that you are coming, hopefully, is to help us further the science. We're here as a network to support you in helping us make CALERIE a more successful project than it has already been. We have members of our external science committee here today, Roz Anderson, Dan Belsky, who will be speaking a little more this morning, and I think that's all we have today. We have, George, and George Martinoff here in the front. We have members of our steering committee, and we'll talk about the steering committee in a little bit. We have Corby Martin in the back. We have Cy Doss over here. And we have Luigi Fontana, who's sitting here next to Cy. And I think those are the attributions that we have for this morning. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend the day until 3 o'clock on these 4 items. I'm going to give introduction to CALERIE. I'm going to talk about the Phase 2 CALERIE, primarily, the design and the results overview to give you a feel for the richness of the data that we've collected already in CALERIE, so that you can help design potentially pilots or parts of projects or even whole R01 projects or other projects that you could submit for funding to help develop more data, develop more analyses, to make the data repository richer, and to help further your science. So you should be thinking, if you have not already, about how you can use the CALERIE resources to those ends. I will talk about the CALERIE network and give you an overview of the website in the process to again give you background for how you can find information, find us, find connections to answer your questions. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we are available. That would be Kim and Carl. Is Manju? On her way. Our study statistician is coming this morning as well. After I give the introduction and the background, Dan Belsky is going to give an example of how he's used the database with very little input from the rest of us to develop a project and give a status update of where his project stands. Carl and Manju will sequentially talk about the data repository and also give an example how the data, the current database can be used in an analytic framework. And then Shauna will talk about some funding opportunities that NIA has been talking about. That will be the morning program. This afternoon, we will have a series of workshops, and we will breakouts, or we can elect to stay together as a group and work through some issues as a group. Our thought was to have potentially up to four breakouts, one dealing with human physiology, one dealing with biomarkers or molecular issues, one dealing with the behavioral database and issues that can deal with that, and one dealing with the nutrition. We'll talk a little bit later in the morning, maybe at the end of the morning, about how we want to approach that afternoon session. We could start as a big group and then break into smaller sessions if that looks appropriate or the like. So we'll make that a work in progress. Okay?
I just had a comment. Unfortunately, it looks like I'm going to have to catch a plane a little earlier, maybe 2:30. So, and I really, I would be more of a molecular genetics guy. I want to learn about what the folks in physiology and psychosocial nutrition groups are doing and what they're thinking, because it'd be nice to have it integrated.
Yes, exactly. So we'll see how we work on this as we go on. We'll have an full hour for lunch. We will be eating downstairs in the dining room. So when we break, that will be available for us for that whole hour. And then we will reassemble back here at 1 o'clock. A couple of other logistical issues. The WebEx folks don't necessarily need to know this, but at any rate, there is an access code required for the restroom. It's on this sheet, as well as access to the Wi-Fi. The code for the Wi-Fi is also on this sheet, which is around the room. Kim?
Can I make just one comment?
You can make as many comments as you'd like.
Just be sure if anyone asks a question to speak into a microphone so that the WebEx people can hear. I can't hear even from the other side of the room, so I'm sure the WebEx people.
You can't hear me?
No, you're just talking into the microphone.
Oh, yes. So we would like to use the microphones. Those are detachable, correct? Okay. So if you and Carl could help distribute the microphones. Actually, there's one there, and there's one over on this side of the table as well. So the point is well taken. Please try to use the microphones this morning. We would like to make this an open session. This is not to be a lecture. At any point, please stop and ask questions. I'm sure there are going to be questions. Don't be bashful. Probably the best thing to do is to get my attention or the attention of Carl and Kim in the back to help facilitate, ask those questions. So let me stop at this point and ask if there are any questions. Is this an agenda that fits everyone's needs? I see some shaking heads. I don't see any no's. I see a lot of friendly faces, people I know. So I feel comfortable up here this morning. We have folks all the way from Utah and as close as DC this morning in the room. So anyone, Washington, D.C., Washington State. So we have people all the way from Washington State and California. Yeah. So thank you for coming. And London. Where's Willon? London. So we have from London to Washington State at this workshop. So we're very happy. Okay. So a little bit about the design and results overview. So there was a natural experiment, if you will, on caloric restriction conducted. How long ago was that? Evan, do you know, Biosphere?
It was about 1988.
Okay, so approximately 35 years ago, there was an experiment conducted in Arizona called Biosphere, where 8 individuals, 4 men and 4 women, were confined in a bubble, if you will, for 2 years. And they were, the experiment was to live in subsistence existence. Yeah, it's in presentation mode. Oh, the problem is, if I put it in presentation mode, there's a technical